India is at a pivotal moment in its history. With the country hosting the world's largest population and one of its youngest, it's common knowledge that India's rapidly expanding economy holds immense promise. However, its current challenge is seizing the opportunity it's got to become an economic powerhouse. If you can believe it, India was once among the top 15 global economies in the mid-1980s, but it slipped from that ranking for over 2 decades, while other nations like China surged ahead. Nonetheless, this retraction didn't stop India's journey towards economic development, and her resilience paid off, because by 2022, India ascended to the top 5 economies worldwide for the first time, with projections placing it only behind China and the USA by 2050. These projections, mind you, are based on India's current strategic position for progress, a position that has built up over the last 15 years, showing consistent improvement in the country's narrative of growth, development, and poverty reduction to birth India's goal of increasing its role on the global stage, in line with ongoing shifts in the world's global order. As expected, countries in support of India's goal to become one of the main stage players in global administrations have become too many to keep track of, but still, questions loom about whether India will fully capitalize on the economic momentum it's gathered over the years, or whether we'll see a repeat of what happened following the mid-80s. According to economists, India's true challenge currently lies in the following factors: its lagging human capital, education, public health, vocational training schemes, and women's participation in the workforce. And with these problems running riot in India's economy, many are rightly wondering, will this century be India's defining era, or will the country squander its chance to rise to the top as a global economic force? Let's take a closer look at the situation. Promising factors for India's economy center on one thing: its robust GDP growth in relation to other major economies. In 2022, for example, while the global economy grew by slightly above 3%, India achieved an impressive 7% GDP growth, far surpassing even the largest economies like the USA, China, and the EU 27. Another advantage India's economy enjoys is its burgeoning youth population. You see, contrary to industrialized nations that struggle with aging demographics from day to day, India's demographic dividend is its youth. Currently, India is already projected to surpass China in population by 2060, reaching 1.7 billion, with more than half of its inhabitants under the age of 30. This demographic advantage places India in a highly advantageous position when it comes to its status as an economic powerhouse, and could potentially be the force that actually catapults it to the top in the nearest future. Other favourable conditions, like a young, educated and substantial labour force, are benefits that also offer the potential for India to emerge as an economic powerhouse. Now, because of these many advantages, experts argue that even though India's current economic growth was not and still isn't unprecedented, the country is better positioned now than ever before. Yes, the current growth rate is lower than that of the 2000s, but according to these experts, India has addressed internal challenges and undergone reforms over the years, placing it in an even better situation than it was in 2003 when the country first started experiencing rapid economic growth. India has also boldly emphasized its expanding economic prowess whenever the opportunity has presented itself. This was evident during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent state visit to the US, where he talked about India's economic ascent and how the Indian government has concentrated on improving urban infrastructure and investing significantly in capital expenditure to boost the national economy. For all the good that these measures have produced, though, we see that the economic structure creates challenges similar to those faced by wealthier nations. And if you've been watching, you know that these challenges aren't as easy to see at first, because India's robust economic indicators mask the underlying depth of its social issues. Yes, India has a large population and geographical expanse going for it, but the GDP per capita reflects stark economic differences that won't be solved by solely focusing on India's GDP figures. For instance, India's primary challenge is inadequate job creation, particularly for a youth population that will be entering a job-scarce environment over the next 20 to 30 years. And will this challenge be successfully addressed soon? Well, no one knows, because in a surprising twist of fate, higher education often leads to higher unemployment rates in India, meaning that while overall unemployment stands at around 7%, this rate more than doubles for individuals with advanced degrees. Even those with intermediate education levels face challenges finding employment, making the issue much worse for those with minimal or no education. Also, given that a substantial portion of Indian employment is agriculture-based, many people with limited education occupy poorly compensated roles in the job market. Gender inequality in the labour force is also another issue, since just around 20% of women in India are part of the labour force compared to 70% of men. So what do you think is the right solution to this problem? We believe a comprehensive approach to India's growth in the employment sector must prioritise enhancing human capital outcomes and generating better employment opportunities for the people. The higher a person's degree, the higher their likelihood at getting the top-paying job should be, not the other way around. Now, let's jump to India's environmental concerns. Like India's challenges in the education and labour sector, its environmental concerns are also a big deal. And the issue isn't that many of these problems aren't solvable, but that while they can be dealt with effectively by meaningful change, India has struggled to create that change. For instance, it's well known that India's per capita carbon emissions are among the lowest for major economies, trailing China, the USA and the EU. Despite this, India still ranks among the top carbon emitters globally. Also, India has invested heavily in solar energy and continues to promote the use of electric vehicles. However, coal also remains a significant energy source for the country. Coal-fired power plants contribute up to 71% of India's power capacity, making them the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions. Air pollution also poses a severe issue because, despite the government's effort to curb pollution as effectively as possible, India still houses 11 of the 12 cities worldwide with the highest levels of PM 2.5, the world's most harmful particulate matter. It's a problem that can't be solved without accurate data at an initial stage, but, if you guessed it, accurate data is also lacking due to India's limited government transparency. So, in the end, economic growth alone may not be able to resolve this challenge, because unlike Europe and North America, where environmental issues were resolved post-industrialization, India's environmental issues are coming up while the country is still developing. This means that balancing economic growth and environmental health will require strategic management, given that these two objectives aren't mutually exclusive. Now, when we look away from India's challenges and its economic size, one big deal we'll find is the possibility of a broader global power shift in the country's favour. China's ascent has already dominated the question of which country is the ringleader in the 21st century, but we're also starting to see questions about whether India will take up that mantle or something similar to it in this same century, because much like Japan in the late 20th century, India holds the potential to be a substantial force. India being the world's largest democracy only adds more value to this position too, because beyond its military strength, India's soft power, which exists in its harmonious and rich cultural heritage, protects its course to becoming an economic powerhouse in no time. India has also had a consistent foreign policy since independence and remains a leader in various forums like BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the G77. India also actively contributes to United Nations peacekeeping missions, meaning that even though India has experienced military conflicts with neighbours like China and Pakistan, the country believes in aiming for peaceful coexistence as a first port of call. So, what do all these facts come to show? Well, it's simply that while India has what it takes to become a significant global economic force due to its youthful populace, expanding economy and geopolitical relevance, the country's trajectory is now at a crucial juncture that needs to be navigated successfully so that in the years to come, India can fully realise its potential as a major global player and nothing lesser. Alright, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, share this video and press that post notification bell so you don't miss out on our future videos. We analyse the latest trending economic news, so watch out. And until next time, take care.